Hello ladies and gents. It's a beautiful evening. I'm a simple man, I see sun in the sky and I get on the bike. What I thought I'd talk about today, what you've all been waiting for. I've had this bike, I've done 589 miles and I've had this bike a month now. I was going to do like a top 5 negatives and a top 5 positives, but I kept coming up with more positives. Obviously, because I'm a loser and I'm still in love. What I thought I'd do is give you a bit of a 1 month ownership review. Obviously I'm still running the bike in. I've got my first service on Saturday, which is, it's Wednesday? It's Wednesday today. So my first service is on Saturday to unlock it and allow me to be an absolute moron on this, which I'm already doing. So stick around if you're interested in that. I'm trying not to say stick around and stay tuned because that's proper YouTubery, isn't it? Let's get fired up. I like the way it like fires into life. Nothing coming. The bike's warm, don't worry about it. I've already warmed it up, I've been riding for about half hour. There are a few things that I mentioned in my first ride review, link in this corner. There's a few things when I rode the bike that I thought that's really going to bug me. One of which does, one of which doesn't. The thing that does bug me is this screen. You'll probably see if you're looking on this camera, but I've added my old Puig clip-on, or Puig, or however you say it, onto the top of this screen. Now, on my first ride, and obviously when I started using the bike, it was very clear to me that although the wind protection is fantastic, like I barely get any sort of wind on my body, I was still getting some buffeting on my helmet. Now I'm not talking about this helmet. If you're first time watching, I normally wear a Shoei RYD. I'm using this because I'm testing whether I like it, kind of thing. So it's a normal helmet, it's not a peaked one. But I used to get quite a lot of buffeting on top of the helmet. This is a 50 quid, or I can't remember how much it was. I'll stick a picture on screen somewhere as to how much it was. But I bought this a couple of years ago when I had my Yamaha Tracer 700. It clips on really well onto this, it's solid, and it's made an enormous difference. I think I mentioned in my running in video last week, I rode round to Kent to see my granny. But yeah, I rode round to see her, and the entire way I did not put my visor down because I just didn't need to. Motorways, absolutely everything, I was just sitting in the old famous bubbler calm. So that has completely solved it. If you have got one of these bikes, I strongly advise, instead of going and spending 150, 200 quid on a really expensive screen that you're not sure that's going to look very good or even perform well, just grab one of these. On my Tracer, it barely made a difference, but this has made a massive difference. I've said that like 4 times now. So the thing that did bug me on the test ride was the indicator switch. What I mean by that, if you haven't seen my first ride review, this indicator switch, the cancellation, like middle cancellation buttons, are a real pig to find. It's got self-cancelling indicators, however, it did bug me originally. Like I said, I've had the bike a month and straight away it's just, I'm used to it now. I know exactly where it is. There's no problem with it at all. Talking about going around to Kent, one thing I did notice, which is a negative, is the seat comfort. Although the seat is comfy enough, it is hard. I don't know whether this helmet's really windy, so sorry if it is. But yeah, the seat's quite hard. I don't notice it when I'm just like riding around normally. When I was sitting on the motorway, it was just, I got a bit of a numb cheek, should I say. It was only like an hour and a half into the journey that it started to go a bit numb. I will be buying one of the aftermarket KTM power part seats. They're not bad price, to be fair. Like you can get the bench seats and the normal seats for about, I think the bench seats are about 180 quid, and you can get the normal, like this is a 2-part seat. You can get replacements of those, although cheeky KTM, they've done lovely orange stitching on the power part seat, which means you can't just buy the rider seat, because if you did it'd look really odd. So you kind of have to buy the pillion seat to match. But I mean, KTM, it's a premium branded bike. BMW do exactly the same, so do Triumph, I'm pretty sure. That's the second sort of negative, I suppose. This is a positive and a negative: fuel range. This is a bit of a repeat if you watched my running in video, but deal with it. So when I went round to Kent, it was about 180 miles, I think, round trip. So I think it's 75-ish miles there and back. We did a little bit of a back road that we shouldn't really have done, but because we got lost. I got 57 mpg, I think it was, and I still had 130, 140 miles in the tank when I got home. It's a 23 litre fuel tank, so you'd hope you'd get that. For touring, that's just so good, especially up in Scotland where you've got sort of 180 to 200 miles between fuel stops. It just takes away that worry, doesn't it? The reason I say it's a negative as well is because I'm still running it in, but when I can, I am riding it quite hard, but under sort of 6,500 RPM. You can munch through a tank of fuel very quickly if you're going for it. Like, you can put a full tank of fuel in and go and do 60 odd miles and come back and you've got sort of 70, 80 miles left in the tank. So it can be very, very thirsty if you pin it. The keyless fuel cap is fantastic, but what's not fantastic is, you know, on a lot of Triumphs, or most Triumphs, the fuel gauge takes like 10-15 minutes to catch up with the fact that you fueled up. This does the same. Every single time I filled up, beamer right up my bumhole. Probably have to hurry up a bit, won't I? See you later then. I sit there while I put my gloves on with the engine running, and by the time I've left, it says I've got most of a tank, like 90% of a tank, and 170 miles. And then it's only when I start riding, and it obviously then dictates how much of a dick I'm riding, like I get a better idea of fuel range, and then it goes to full. Not a problem, doesn't cause any issues, because obviously you know you filled up. But if you needed a specific amount of fuel, or for whatever reason, that might be a bit annoying. Again, like, I mean, Triumph do exactly the same. Talking of electronics, the screen is fantastic. It's so clear, so easy to navigate round. The old one was a little bit like, how do I get to this bit? So the TFT is fantastic. The heated grips are amazing, they're so hot. I have not had a single, I mean, touch wood, I've not had a single electrical gremlin so far. It's been faultless, so the bike's always started, it's always run. I've never had any like black screen or anything like that like you used to get occasionally on the old ones. Oh, Emma's calling me. Hi. Okay, bye now. We don't have any Dolmio sauce. This video is going to be quite long, isn't it? So sorry about that. I'll put time codes in the bottom so you can see. I haven't ridden it at night yet. The backlit switchgear is really good. Like, you can sort of see it glowing right now. And obviously the lights have like lean angle, sensitive lights and stuff like that, which is really useful. But I haven't tried them yet, so I don't know how good they are. I'll update you later on. You can do most things on the fly while you're riding, but settings is not something you can do, which is obviously a fair enough thing. KTM MyRide is their app to connect your phone to your bike and obviously to your headset and TomTom or like your sat-nav and all that sort of stuff. There's two versions. One of them is a paid version, which is about £8, and it's a KTM MyRide Navigation, and one of them's free. The free one is an absolute pile of trash, like, and that is the nicest way I could put it. So my phone and my bike are connected, but it just says it's not connected. Doesn't matter how many times I delete it and reinstall it, doesn't matter how many times I turn my Bluetooth off and on again, turn the bike on and off, whether I turn my bike on first and then the phone, or like whatever, it doesn't matter, it does not work. So KTM, if you're watching this, please sort that out. There are hundreds of 1-star reviews on that app because it is a pile of shite. The KTM MyRide Navigation app, which is the £8 one, or £7 or whatever it was, that works well. So it still connects to your phone. You have a few little bugs. You have to put your destination in the phone. You can't like do it on the screen, you can't add any navigation on the screen. You get turn-by-turn navigation on here, ETA to destination, and all that sort of stuff, and that's really good. Connecting your phone to your bike and your center, I had to do a little bit of digging on this. The best way of doing it is deleting your pairing for your center or pack torque from your phone, and then pair them both individually to the bike, and then they work faultlessly. It's you can listen to music, you can take calls and all that sort of stuff. I took a call without my center connected to the bike, and I could see it was on the screen, but I couldn't hear audio. That also still works if you're riding along with someone. So say George, Brooker or Emma come out with me, for example, I can still connect my center to their centers and still be connected to my phone. Obviously you've got a limit on how many things you can have connected, as you do with all Bluetooth devices, but it seems to still work. The only time it gets a bit crackly is when this is trying to shout directions at you and the person in your ear is trying to talk at the same time. It's just a bit like it can't decide which one goes first. I think you can sort out like priorities of like what comes first. Oh, doing that there brings me on to, quite frankly, the best thing about this bike. And this engine is just something else. It's absolutely sublime. Like I said before in my running in video, even though I'm running it in, you can do some serious speed on this thing and have a lot of fun without even going over 6,000 RPM. It's so effortless, it's so quick, brakes are really good, Quickshifter's phenomenal, it wheelies everywhere as well. If you stick it in, I've got this in rally mode, and you can just, like, it just wheelies, first, second, third, it's just wheeling everywhere. Oh, the anti-dive is really good as well. Obviously it still dives a tad, but nowhere near as it would if you didn't have it on. I'll try and do a test at some point to show you what I mean properly. The superlatives that you can throw at this bike are just like endless. I've also heard after the first service the Quickshifter gets even smoother and the engine gets even more pokey, and you get all like the crackles and stuff from the like the exhaust. A few people have asked about high-speed front end wobble on the motorway. I haven't noticed that. I will do a more in-depth test at some point if you get my drift and feedback. I'm just going to pull over because I can't actually remember what my other ones are. That's one of the negatives. This is a Samsung S10 Plus, so it's quite a beefy phone, but getting it in there in my quad lock case, it doesn't quite go there. My mum's got the S21 standard edition, that fits fine. I've just forgotten what they were. A few people have worries about dealer support. The Hemel Hempstead KTM Centre is, I mean, people travel to it to get their bikes rather than going to their local dealers. So I'm hoping I'm not going to have any problem with that. The guys have been lovely over there. They're always they're always helpful. It's the same thing with Aprilia. Some people worry about like Aprilia as the dealer network's sort of a bit hit and miss. But then saying that, I had exactly the same problem with Yamaha. Like I mentioned in my 35,000 mile review on my Tracer, I can't fault KTM for that. Different people in all different areas, so it's just whether you've got a moron working for your dealer or not. Little wheelie. I think I've mentioned it before, but another massive selling point for me is the adaptive ride height. So the being able to dial up and down your preload. I'm about 5'9", probably just a bit over, with a 32 inch inseam. So pulling up on a place where it's got like drop curbs or something like that, being able to drop the rear suspension is just like, it's a game changer for me, and it'll be a game changer for a lot of you out there as well, the ones of us that aren't really blessed in the height department. The one thing that does bug me a little bit, I mean, again, it's not a massive issue because I think most people probably won't use that option all the time, but over here you've got your custom switch. So if I push forward, I've got heated grips, and that will be my heated seat when I get my heated seat. And if I pull towards me, it's rider mode. Now for me, I ride most of the time in rally mode, and I don't really change out of that unless I need to go on the motorway and use adaptive cruise, because you can't use adaptive cruise in rally mode because of these things are taken up with the traction control thing. But because I like changing the seat height quite a lot, it'd be great if I could have one of those options to do the suspension. Like literally, if I could just pull that and it takes me straight into the preload menu or straight into the suspension menu, and then I can just quickly go in. It just saves me a couple extra button presses. Finding negatives for this, I really had to nitpick. Every time I ride this thing, it is just like, I mean, it does every single thing I want it to. It's got the fuel range, it's got the touring ability with the wind protection and all that sort of extra stuff, so it's got everything I want from that aspect. It's got the adaptive ride height, the adaptive cruise control, and also then when you want it to, it's just, it does that. Oh, and that thing, that never gets old, and I can't even go past 6,500 RPM at the moment. So there's my 609 mile 1 month ownership review, pre-run-in service, pre-first service. I hope that's answered all your questions. I know a lot of people have been considering this bike. Oh, one other thing I will mention, sorry, but one other thing I will mention is a couple of years ago when I was on my Tracer, I saw a Super Adventure, or the old model, go past me at one of the local sort of big roundabouts. He pulled away from a set of traffic lights and he went round this long sweeping right corner, and I was just sitting there going, how can you do that? Because if I did that on my Tracer, I'd have been bouncing all over the shop. But oh, get out. But this thing, if you put it in a corner, lean it in, it doesn't move. You can absolutely, like, I mean, I'm talking running in, but you can open it up mid-corner and it just squats a little bit and powers through the corner. It is so addictive. And just any, I mean, it doesn't matter what speed you're doing. On the motorways, you've got the long sweeping corners. It just sticks to the road. It's awesome. And the suspension just sorts everything out for you. But yeah, anyway, I'll stop blabbering on now. You lot are probably bored of hearing me gushing about this thing. Thanks for joining me. Any questions you've got, stick them in the comment section below as usual. Hit subscribe if that's something you're into. If you've got Instagram, I've just set up an Instagram page for this account. So that is Sam V Bikes on Instagram. I'll put a link in the description. There's a link at the end as well. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm gonna go and be a dick now.